if you cash in those stocks because you need to pay that, month's bills, mortgages, whatever, those shares never come back. It's, almost like a roulette wheel. Which day did you get when you took the money out? And, was it that, like you said, that really bad day or the really positive day?
Yeah.
And that could have been the same exact week. Welcome to Wealth Creator Radio, where we help people overcome the uncertainty of having enough retirement income. I'm your host, Eric Heckman, a certified financial planner with over 30 years of experience. We want you to enjoy life and not have to wonder where your money will come from and how long it'll last. My mission is to show you how to develop a personalized income plan so you can retire more and have worry less wealth. Here at Wealth Creator Radio, we cut through the noise and get straight to what matters. We understand that the world of retirement planning can be filled with confusing products, ever-changing tax laws, and volatile markets. That's why we're here to help successful people like you navigate the uncertainty and create a blueprint for a thriving, work-optional life.
The stock market has been on a wild ride lately, from steep drops to record-breaking gains, all in the span of a week. So for retirees, these swings are nerve-wracking. But what if there is a way to make sense of it all? Today on Wealth Creator Radio, Eric is here, and we're going to talk about some savvy strategies that you can use to preserve your savings to help keep your retirement on track, no matter what the market throws your way. So I want to start off by giving you our phone number as we get into our show. Thank you for joining us today. I'm Lou Ann Fulmer, here with Eric Heckman. He's president and founder at Heckman Financial, where they help people just like you have remarkable retirements and worry less in retirement. That is their goal for you. So let's start off with the phone number, because you can put this in your phone right now. You may call or text this number. A couple different ways to text. 800-454-1184 is the phone number to call if you need some complimentary guidance from Eric and our team at Heckman Financial. You can also text the word visit if you prefer texting, or text the word toolbox. And when you text the word toolbox, you're going to get Eric's book that he has written, and also other resources you'll have access to. So text the word visit or text the word toolbox to 800-454-1184. Or like I said, you can just call to get on their calendar. And Eric, excited to be here with you again today. We've got some good stuff to talk about.
Yeah, definitely been crazy times. I don't know, in terms of the flip-flopping, it's more than, I guess, the pancakes at a Denny's or something, that Trump's been doing on the tariffs and all this stuff. And, I don't know, how many times has he folded now? More than a laundry place would fold, I guess. So the art of the deal has not been so far working, and we'll see. It's to be determined for sure. But it's been a little crazy and chaotic, and this doesn't lend itself well to business, doesn't lend itself well to a lot of things. But yeah, definitely when your portfolio is going by several percent on a daily basis for weeks now, really.
Right.
It's been definitely hard for people.
Yeah, we had 1 week in April where the week started with a big market downturn, and then it ended with the best week of gains in years. So when we're seeing this volatility, over days or weeks or whatever, how important is it for retirees to be proactive, Eric?
So the biggest thing is, when you're working, you can just wait for the money to come back, right? Wait for the markets to rebound. There's no problem, just hang in there, all those phrases, cliches, right? So, yeah. But really the big difference is that distribution. Once you flip from kind of going, build to I need to start using it, and you start taking it out, first of all, it's just scary for people. It's amazing how much the psychology and the freak out factor is when people have to withdraw money from these accounts. But the other bigger issue really is if you sell those, cash in those stocks because you need to pay that, month's bills, mortgages, whatever, those shares never come back.
Right.
Those shares are gone, right? Because you cashed them in. So especially how volatile things been, it's, almost like a roulette wheel. Which day did you get when you took the money out? And, was it that, like you said, that really bad day or the really positive day?
Yeah.
And that could have been the same exact week. So one of the biggest things to do is make sure you have enough cash already that you're, can take your monthly withdrawal on. if you're selling off stocks and bonds every single month to live, it can be very, very hazardous. So, we try not to do that too much with our clients. We try to make sure that there's a pot of cash that we can roll in there. They can take that money out of there, let dividends, other things kind of build that money back up and keep going that way. So that way you're not forced to sell. Because when you're forced to sell something, you're never selling at the right price.
Right. Yeah.
If you're the desperate seller, yeah, you're not going to get top dollar. That's guaranteed.
Yeah, so true. So tell us how you help clients figure out if they are taking on too much risk or not enough.
Yeah, well, I mean, one of the easiest things right now is look at how much their portfolio is doing and how big those swings are, and so that'd be one issue. But no, I mean, really, it's what we do is we have a risk score, so people can take a risk score quiz and find out what they're comfortable with. There's no real right or wrong answer, but again, if you're starting to spend down that money and take it out, yeah, you should not be investing like a 20 or 30-year-old, right? You should be investing like somebody who's going to need the money. And you can't wait 5, 10, 15 years for the money to come back because, your situation will be very different by then. So, that's what we're trying to really avoid is avoid that desperation that I got to go take it out type of thing. So if you don't have as many big swings, if you've got some stuff protected, if you got some foundational money, some steady income money on top of the market money, you're going to be a lot safer. But if you have 100% stocks, bonds, ETFs, it is going to be a tough road to go in retirement.
So if you are feeling a little uncertain with everything going on, I want you to talk about other income sources like Social Security and annuities that are not tied to the market and how they could actually help bolster a retirement plan when the markets are unstable.
Yeah, well, hopefully Social Security stays around. It's something we all pay into, so it's not. Yeah, it's not an entitlement. It's something that we've actually funded, so we're supposed to get the money back. The biggest problem there is in 2034, they're not going to be able to pay their bills, and I haven't seen anything about the Republicans trying to fix that yet. And that date's used to sound like a long ways away, but it's under 10 years now. So
Yeah.
and we're getting close. So hopefully that sticks around, at least for right now it is. And then, the other side can be annuities. It could be a payout for life type of annuity, or even better yet, I think the best ones right now are just the index kind. These are ones where they pay a great interest rate, sometimes up to 10% when the markets are going up, and they lock that in once a year. And if the markets go down, you can't lose the money. The principal is guaranteed. So that's a great source for those bad years, because if it's a bad year, like say 2022, when the market was down 20%, take the money from there. Don't lock in those losses. 2023, the market shot back up. 24, the market shot up. So that's when you should have been cashing in some of that money, right? And taking some of those chips off the table and then flipping it, again, this year, it seems like to the downside again. So if you've got that as an option, that's great. If you have no other options, you're stuck. And again, you're going to be selling at the worst time you can sell. So, one of the things that I really believe a lot in is having people have information. And so one of the things we've developed here at Heckman Financial is the digital toolbox. This digital toolbox has stuff like the Social Security timing decision. When should you start it? Things like, will my money last as long as I do? Well, am I paying too much money in taxes? It even has a copy of my book, Worry Less Wealth, and a way to set a time to talk with me actually directly, Eric Heckman at Heckman Financial. So all you got to do is text the word toolbox to 800-454-1184. Again, text the word toolbox, 800-454-1184, or go online to wealthcreatorradio.com.
And you are listening to Wealth Creator Radio with my friend Eric Heckman of Heckman Financial. Thank you for joining us today. Eric, how do you talk to people about helping them rein in their emotions, okay, when when it comes to their financial decisions, especially in times like this?
Yeah, well, it's tough. Yeah, it's a little bit of a therapist job, and should have probably taken a lot more psychology when I was in school. So
Probably.
so yeah, that part wasn't probably as good. But no, it's more just again, do we have stuff protected? How much is protected? Do we have some stuff that's hedged in the market? We do a lot of buffering and other things to protect people from the downside. So. We kind of go over that, go over the needs of how much cash flow are they going to be needing, fairly soon, and where's it going to come from? And, then often the plan's fine. Sometimes you might need to tweak something or, go, for some changes, but not as often as much. So Again, it's all about knowing stuff, all about having some education. So that's why we set up that digital toolbox. Again, if you want to get a copy of that, just text word toolbox to 800-454-1184. Again, text word toolbox 800-454-1184, or go online and download it directly at wealthcreatorradio.com.
If something's worth doing, it's worth doing right. There's a particular time of life this phrase couldn't be more appropriate. How can you know you'll live the retirement you've always imagined? After all, life can be so unpredictable. You've worked hard and saved. Watch your accounts go up and down with the market. Your advisor says, don't worry, you'll be fine. But you still don't feel confident. Eric Heckman at Heckman Financial has a checklist to help you find out if you're on the right track for retirement. If you can check all the boxes with confidence, you may be ready for retirement. If not, Eric can help you address any potential costly mistakes. To get Eric Heckman at Heckman Financial's complimentary checklist, call or text LIST to 800-454-1184. Call or text LIST to 800-454-1184. Firm offers insurance services. Investment advisory services offered through Heckman Financial and Insurance Services, Inc. Investing involves risk, including the potential loss of principal.
Hey, you're listening to Wealth Creator Radio. I'm Lou Ann Fulmer here with Eric Heckman, and thank you for spending part of your day with us today. We are faced with questions every single day. I don't know what the first question is that you ask, Eric. I know with me, I'm probably like, what's the weather? What am I going to wear today? Some people would say, when's my meeting? Things like that. But when we are starting to consider retirement, those questions get a little more complicated. So first of all, I'm going to ask you, what's the first thing you ask when you get up? What's the first thing goes through your mind?
I don't know in terms of, I don't ask much questions in the morning because I just have my routine and
get up and do it.
Do my workout, get my food going, all that stuff,
Yeah.
Read a book and stuff. So,
wow, you do a lot.
Yep. So
I'm impressed. Okay, so tell us about.
I don't open my phone until I'm about to go to my office or anything like that.
Very
so that way
good.
you don't get bugged by all that junk.
Yeah, very good.
So, but yeah, definitely different when you get close to retirement for sure, right?
Yeah. So tell us what questions should a person be asking as they get closer?
Well, I mean, one of the biggest ones that, my mom always struggled with, and that's why we named it Worry Less Wealth, was because she was always worried about this and worried about that. And as I say, she was our chief worrying officer.
Yep.
And and so as most moms are.
Yes.
And so one of the first things is am I going to be okay? Right? Am I going to have enough money? Will it last long as I do? And have I saved enough? And also a lot of times just the logistics kind of confound people. I mean, it was funny. I just recently had a meeting with two people that they're not really retiring until, they're going to sell their house at the end of maybe this year or next year. They're debating, but she's going to be working at least till the end of this year and then part of next year, but they're moving cross country to Maine. So they already have their house there set up. So it's just a matter of, when, but he's retiring right now. And they're just like, well, how do we get the money out? Like logistically,
right. When they're over there.
It's like, we link it to your bank account. We'll take, so. But it is kind of funny because I kind of forget. Yeah, it's just those basic things are big enough, right? And then which pot of money to take first, and all that, and you get to basically pick your own tax brackets when you retire, which is always kind of a weird thing to think about. But when you're working, you get that W-2. There's not much tax wise you can do about it. But once you're retired, you get all these different buckets of money, and depending on which one you grab first, it's going to cost you a lot. So also just knowing what the taxes are, that's another big question, is how much taxes will be in retirement. And, and so, there's a lot of questions for sure.
A lot. Now, I would imagine, have I saved enough is the question that first arises when people come to see you and start talking about retirement. So how do you help them find that answer?
Yeah. So really the only way that can be determined is through an income plan. Yeah. Will I be okay? Have I saved enough? Will my money last? Those are all three versions of the same question, right?
Yeah,
so,
right.
They're all the same thing, right? It doesn't matter how much you've saved, as long as your money is going to last, then sure, okay, right?
Yeah.
So, that has a couple different components. I mean, first of all, the hardest thing to figure out is, what am I going to spend? And what's the real number? Not the one you tell yourself, but the one you actually do. Because people always quote one number, and pretty consistently it's 20 to 40% higher than the number they first tell me, because they remember all the normal stuff, but they don't remember, all the extra stuff, right? So the stuff that only happens, maybe once or twice or three times a year, but
Mhm.
it keeps happening, always happens. And then those things that get break or whatever. And, there's always something, right? So,
Right.
so once you get that spending number down, then you can look at how things are going. And then you can figure out, okay, well, from this pot of money, if I keep taking this money out with inflation, with taxes, and obviously which type of tax for what type of money, run that all out and then see is in our software, there's a big red line and you don't want to see the red line. The red line means you're out of money.
Right.
So that's not good. The red line at 95 ain't bad. Red line at 75. Oh yeah, you probably need to really change something here. Either work some longer, spend less, or move someplace cheaper. So so there's a couple different options, right? But at least knowing that ahead of time, running those numbers out and seeing, okay, will this actually work? Then we can kind of answer a ton of questions, right? Because of that, that's the most critical thing is that income plan going to work?
Of course. How many sources of income do people typically have?
Yeah, that's a good question too. Because I mean, most of it, I always like to tell people, retirement's like it's a bunch of little checks instead of having the one big check. When you're working, you get the one big check. Every 2 weeks, twice a month, whatever it is. Here, it's about this check from this place. This check. One Social Security check. Maybe if you're married, two Social Security checks. Right? Maybe you're lucky enough to have a little bit of a pension, but most likely not. And so where are those other checks going to come from? From your stock account, from your IRAs, from all these different places. And so what you want to do is look at that and say, okay, does that total add up to the right amount of money? And so it's not really how many checks. It's just at the end of the day, at the end of the month, did I have enough go into my bank account to live on and pay my bills? And if so, yay. If
Yeah.
not, okay, but we got to figure out something, right? So yeah, that's really the biggest key. And so, one of the things that we do when we go through that blueprint to worry less wealth process, we first have a meeting where we just talk about what's going on, talk about, what your situation is, what your worries, what your concerns are. That can be either phone or in person or Zoom. And then what we do is if it makes sense, we'll actually go to that next meeting. And we used to charge a fee, but right now we've been waiving that fee. And we'll actually spend about 4 or 5 hours of my team's time prepping for that, getting everything ready. And we'll go through first and foremost that income plan that you might not know you have, but you have one. It's like going down the freeway. You're headed somewhere.
Yes.
We'll tell you where you're headed, even if maybe not where you want to be going, but we'll
Right.
tell you you're on course. And so we'll tell you what's working, what's not. Again, for the first and foremost of that income plan, then those investments, what's the risk level? Are those investments putting off enough income? Because most people, when they're working, they're just going for growth, but they're not going for getting money out. And then also the tax ramifications. How can we lower your lifetime taxes, not your 1 year tax? We want to see how can we lower your taxes overall. And so that's a big critical distinction. Also look at the healthcare issues and legacy issues. And, that's the blueprint to worry less wealth. So, if you want to set up a time to talk and go through that, all you have to do is text the word visit to 800-454-1184. Again, text the word visit, 800-454-1184, or book directly online at wealthcreatorradio.com.
And remember, all of this is complimentary. So definitely take advantage of this. Eric would love to see you. So thank you for joining us again. This is Wealth Creator Radio. I'm Lou Ann Fulmer, and we are talking about the 4 questions you need to ask before you retire. Another one in just trying to figure out, can I retire? Tell us about ways you help someone figure out their retirement date. I have had people retiring at 62, Eric, my friends, I'm saying. And then I have others who are waiting full retirement age and others who say, I'm going to work till I'm 70. How do you help someone figure that out?
Yeah, well, the hardest time frame is pre-65 because the magic date still is for Medicare. They didn't change that, which was in hindsight probably stupid of Congress, but
Right.
so that's still 65. So that's still by far the most popular time for people to retire. But if you're trying to do like, say, you're like some of your friends, 62,
Yeah.
how are you going to pay for that that health insurance for
Right.
3 years? I mean, that can be easily $1,000 or more per person. And that's a huge bill to be paying. So not only are you going to have your money last longer, but you're also going to have to kick in some extra money that you're not spending today to get that money, right? And so that's a really tough one. So that's one thing just to be thinking about is pre 65, and then are you going to ever work? Because if you turn on Social Security and you're before your full retirement age, which for most people 67, they might take back your Social Security because you made too much money earning income. So if you did a part-time job or side gig or something like that. So yeah, so there's a lot of little things. One other little trick is I like to have people usually retire on the second of the month instead of the end of the month because you get one more month of benefits.
Oh,
So, and then sometimes it's based on when your RSUs grant or something like that. But yeah, lots of things to be thinking about. But again, if you want to set up that time to have that free conversation, go over what issues you might have and what worries and concerns. All you have to do is text the word visit 800-454-1184. Text the word visit 800-454-1184 or book directly online at wealthcreatorradio.com.
Be sure to like and subscribe to Wealth Creator Radio so you can stay up to date on ways to build your wealth and create a retirement you and your family will enjoy for years to come. Like and subscribe today and create your wealth for tomorrow with Wealth Creator Radio.
hi, thank you for joining us today. I'm Lou Ann Fulmer here with Eric Heckman. Saving for retirement is one thing, but, making sure that money lasts is a whole different ballgame. Here's the kicker. We don't know. When is our finish line, right? We don't know how long we're going to live in retirement. So, Eric, that's the biggie. Once we're confident, okay, I've saved enough to retire, and now I'm in retirement, and I have to ensure that I'm not going to outlive my savings. So, how do you guide people for that?
Yeah, no, it is nerve-wracking for sure. I mean, that's number one worry, hands down, is how do you make sure you're not outlive it? And it's one of these things where you can't answer it at the beginning. I mean, we can project it, right? But things happen, right? Crazy market swings, volatility. There's been so many different things in the last 20, 30 years, right? The .com, the Great Recession, all these things. So you have to really think about. You're going to have 3 decades, hopefully, in retirement. And historically speaking, one of those will be great, one of those will be okay, and one of those will be bad. And I'll tell you the answer to which one was the bad one in 30 years. Right?
Of
I
course.
can't tell you that now, right?
Of course, yeah.
So if the bad one's the first one, it could be really bad. So
Yeah.
what happens is you cannot retire on the same advice that you got while you're growing the money, which was grow, 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 put it all in the market, blah, blah, blah. You would never, ever see any college endowment, any pension fund, anything like that ever put 100% of their money in the stock market. But what do they make you do for your 401k? 100% stocks and bonds. That's the only options. You don't have any other options. You did originally, but not anymore. So, so that's one of the things that you have to learn is how do you divide that money up and make sure that there's some money that's guaranteed. Obviously, there's a lot of risk with Social Security nowadays in the future because, in 2034, they're not supposed to be able to pay their bills anymore or all of them, So if you also had a benefit cut, that'd be really awful. So how can you protect it yourself, right? There are some options, there's some tools, but it's really more about asset allocation, making sure that you've got some money guaranteed. So in those bad years, you take the guarantees. In the good years, you take the growth. And then we always have a little bit in steady income, stuff that pays out some income and dividends. So that way you've always got some cash flow going in. And, and that's the problem is lots of times people are using advisors or money managers that are really geared for the 20 to 60-year-old set that's trying to grow their money. But once you're 60 plus and trying to take it out, totally different ballgame,
Right.
totally different rules. And if you're not playing by the new rules, you're not going to do well.
Right. You got to play by the new rules, retirement rules.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
why you do this show. And I'm so excited to be doing it with you to help everybody listening to understand all the many things that you have to go through in retirement. So many risks we're going to be exposed to if we live a long time. You already mentioned market volatility. Any other risks that we need to be aware of? I know there are a lot. Why don't you bring them to the forefront?
Yeah. So there's a lot of risks. I mean, one of the, obviously, like you said, volatility is one of the big ones. But, the other thing is taxes. Depending on which type of money you take out, that's going to be one set of tax. And Congress, ever since Gingrich and Clinton days, the tax law expires after, usually it has to expire after 10 years. So every new president has basically put in a new tax law that expires at some point, and then we have to get a new one. So it's like playing a board game, and
Yep.
all of a sudden all the rules are changed, but mid-game. And, now you have to figure out, does that cost me money? Does it save me money? Which types of money should I be taking out now? How does that affect me long term? So that's some of those things. Product designs, there's other things that change and stuff, right? But longevity is probably one of the biggest ones, right? Is what used to kill you now that you take a pill for, which is great. But it may slow you down, may not, and it means we're living a lot longer. It's crazy how many clients I have that are in their 70s with parents alive. You're
Oh
just going
my
to go
gosh.
every time somebody tells me about talks about their mom, I'm like, how old is your your mom or dad? Like, 102,
Wow.
100. I mean, those are just answers I've had in the last month.
That's excellent.
96 and stuff like that. So yeah, don't count on that inheritance, because you might be retired for 10 or 20 years before you ever get it. And
That's true.
so that's one of the hard parts. But one of the things we've set up is a digital toolbox for people to get some information. And one of them is, will my money last as long as I do? So, hey, exactly what we're talking about. And, Social Security timing decision, that also plays into that. Am I paying too much taxes in retirement? That plays a big role. Also, copy my book, Worry Less Wealth. And then you can set a time with me, Eric Heckman. All you got to do, super simple, is text the word toolbox to 800-454-1184. Again, text the word toolbox, 800-454-1184, or download directly online at wealthcreatorradio.com.
And remember, this is all complimentary that we're talking about here. Eric Heckman is president of Heckman Financial. He is a certified financial planner right here in Silicon Valley, and they would love to guide you about any retirement questions you have. So we're so excited that you're joining us today. I'm Lou Ann Fulmer here with Eric Heckman, and this is Wealth Creator Radio. We want to help you create wealth in retirement. Eric, we bring this number up a lot. Fidelity says that an average 65-year-old couple is estimated to spend about $315,000 on health care. This is after taxes in retirement. Does not include long-term care. So let's talk about that. How are some ways you help clients plan for that?
Yeah, no, it's just something that needs to be in that no BS budget. So when we try to figure out how much are you spending, how much are you going to really spend on a real number, how much are you doing, first of all, today before you retire, right? And what's changes? Well, one of the things that most people do is they get their healthcare through work. And so they're not paying their premiums. Their take-home pay doesn't include premiums, right? They may be doing it, as part of their gross check, but not the net check. And so that's one thing we have to add back in is, okay, Medicare premiums. Are you going to have this evil thing called Aunt Irma? Irma is the thing where it jacks up your Medicare premiums because you made too much money. That's the one that surprises a lot of people. And then that's just the base cost, right? But then, you've got those checkups, other things. I think the worst thing, hands down, is dental. I don't know why our health system thinks your mouth has nothing to do with your body.
Agreed.
Why,
I know.
right? Yeah. Why is it such a separate thing? Why is it separate insurance? All this stuff. But I routinely have clients, probably at least, I'd say almost nowadays, probably twice, maybe even 3 times a year, needing to do withdrawals of $10K or more for dental work. And because they're getting implants, other stuff. And, I had one client, unfortunately, she's passed away now, but she had a kind of a funny sense of humor. And she's like, look at these teeth. That's $28,000. They better be on display when I die.
Smiling.
Because, right. Because she's like, I haven't even spent that on a car before, but I have that much in my teeth. And so, so that you do have to watch out, because those can be some pretty big bills.
Yeah. Another question, we're talking about couples spending a lot of money together on healthcare. What about, will my loved one be okay if something happens to me? Let's talk about that and ways you help clients prepare for that.
Yeah, that's one, I think especially women are pretty bad about. Lots of times not always. Sometimes it is the lady of the couple or something, but there's a lot of couples where there's one person has no clue about finances. And I mean, we've had one where literally this was only a couple of years ago. She'd never used an ATM. Her husband would always take out some money, some cash, give it to her in an envelope every week. So she didn't even know how to check her balance. Didn't know how to, go to the bank and all this stuff. And, yeah, you need to know where your money's come from. You need to know all those details. Even if you don't like to, just pay attention once a year, look at it, do something there. Right.
Yes.
And I do actually have a lot of people that have met with me and kind of said, okay, well, to their spouse, this is the person you go see if I'm gone, because then he can help you. And so they like to run it themselves for
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
And they want somebody, as a backup, basically.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, it is very critical to know that stuff. And, again, so that's why you want to get educated. That's why we set up that toolbox. It's super easy. All you do is text the word toolbox to 800-454-1184. Again, text the word toolbox, 800-454-1184, or download directly online at wealthcreatorradio.com.
Imagine for a moment that an intense storm is pounding your house. Will the roof leak? Will the siding peel away? Will your basement flood? If your house is properly built and maintained, you'll be fine. But what about your 401k or your investments? The stock market has had a great run the last few years, but is its current turmoil making you feel uneasy? Are you confident your portfolio is built to weather the financial storm? Now may be a great time to have your retirement plan inspected. Call Eric Heckman of Heckman Financial at 800-454-1184 now. Eric will examine your portfolio and show you if your investments are in need of some weatherproofing. Call Eric Heckman of Heckman Financial today at 800-454-1184. That's 800-454-1184. Investment advisory services offered through Heckman Financial Insurance Services, Inc., a registered investment advisor.
Hi, I'm Luann Fulmer here with Eric Heckman, president of Heckman Financial right here in the Silicon Valley area. There are some words that can stand the test of time, and we're going to go through some timeless advice right now for you to keep in mind for retirement. So here's how it's going to go, Eric. I'm going to give you a quote, and then I want you to talk about what that has to do with retirement planning, okay?
Sounds great.
Okay, here we go. First one is Benjamin Franklin. And oh my gosh, he has so many quotes because he did so much, okay? Here's a good quote from him. Beware of little expenses. A small leak will sink a great ship. So that sounds like something we need to think about. Those little expenses that could cause unexpected issues in retirement, right?
Well, not just in retirement. I mean, just all the time, right?
Life.
And, right now, of course, when the subscription model kind of first came out for software and other things, it was amazing how much more profitable a lot of these companies got, because, now you don't pay for it once, you pay for a tiny bit every single month, right? And same with streaming services, and same with, so many different things. So another term I like is dripping nickels. That's the other good one. And so, one of the things to look at is, just sit down and look at, your credit card bills and your bank accounts. Are there things you're paying for that you're barely using or not using at all? Even worse, right? So those are things where if you can kind of go through there and start cutting out some of those expenses, it's amazing. Sometimes people can save, $100, $500, even $1,000 on stuff that they're not really using or needing. And so, that's one of those things that, again, that's 100% return on your money, right? If you stop spending it. It's a very good way to make some money by just stop spending it and on things that you don't need.
Right. All right. Very good. We're going over some timeless advice. I'm giving Eric some quotes, and he's telling us what it has to do with retirement. This next one is from somebody we all know about, Abraham Lincoln. And he said a lot of things too, but here's one. He said, "You cannot escape the responsibility of tomorrow by evading it today."
That's definitely a good one. He did have a great way with words. And so, I mean, it is very true that I would probably say, if they're all being honest, I'd say it'd probably be 100, but I'd say at least 70% of my clients always regret not starting earlier, not doing something, sooner, right? Why didn't I put more money away when I was in my 20s or 30s and, things like that, right? And so why did we not do that? Well, because we were exactly what he was saying.
Procrastinators.
We were trying to escape the responsibility tomorrow, right? By evading it today. So yeah, it is one of those things where if you can just start putting a little bit away, it's amazing the amount of time that compounding does and how that's on your side if you start early. If it's late, you can still do it. It just means you need to put more away and maybe you cut back more now to make sure it's all good later on. But you definitely need to have a focus on tomorrow always, even today.
So true. My husband and I both wish we would have, back in our 30s and 40s, saved more, because now we're regretting, we regret it. And man, that would have been helpful. So we're working really hard now to save though, Eric, and we've downsized and saving as much as we can. And we were out of debt and all that. So believe me, if you do it earlier, you won't have to, kind of scramble at the end like Bobby and I are doing. But all right, here's another quote from, actually, I would say this is a pretty heavy hitter in the financial world, Warren Buffett. And he says, I never attempt to make money on the stock market. I buy on the assumption that they could close the market the next day and not reopen it for 10 years. So tell us about that.
Yeah, that one's a little funky, huh? I mean, I don't think they would close it for 10 years.
I don't think so.
But yeah, I mean, in essence, what he's saying is he's trying to put money in there for long term, for owning whatever company. Right now, oh my gosh, with all the meme stocks and all the, FOMO and get rich quick kind of attitudes that you see out there, so many people, unfortunately, are just trying to jump on whatever the hottest new stock is and make a ton of money. And they may do that once or twice, but the problem is the other 5 or 6 or 8 or 10 times they didn't do it, offset what they made on those 1 or 2 times, right? and so that, I mean, that's one of the things that you have to watch out for. I mean, you need to have that long-term focus. You need to make sure that, that this money's going to last you for the rest of your life. And there's, also on the flip side of that, you also can't just jump back in and out. I mean, that's one of the worst things that I see where, people that, in 2022, because the market was down, they said, and they get out. And then, of course, the end of 23, it was back to where it was at the end of 21. So, those kind of things where you have these dips and back up, if you overreact to those too, then, that's going to be a problem. So, one of the things I think is anytime you're doing anything, if you have a plan to go back on, you're assembling that IKEA furniture or whatever it is, right? And all of a sudden you see some extra bolts, you can go back in the directions and make sure you didn't skip a step, right? You can make sure that you did it all right. So when you have a plan, it's easy to know, okay, should I freak out, or are these just actually extra bolts, right?
Right.
Or did I forget something and it's going to fall over the second I put it up? So you need to know that information. It's really critical for you. So, that's what we do with our clients is it's like, okay, am I going to be okay? Am I going to make sure this money's going to last me the rest of my life? What about inflation? What about, risk? What happens when there's a down market? Because basically every 10 years, there's going to be probably 1 to 3 down markets, and you're going to hit those in retirement. So where do you get the money that year for to live on and such? Well, if you've got, if you got a good plan where you've got foundational and steady income and market funds, you've got a plan for that. If you've got that blueprint to worry less wealth, where it talks about your income plan, your investment plan, your tax plan, healthcare and legacy plan, once you have those 5 areas taken care of, you also know you got a plan to fall back on. So, I think that's one of the things that you have to have always your eye on to make sure that you're on track and on target. And so, one of the things that you can do is if you wanted to get a little bit more information, set up a time to talk, 15 to 30 minutes with me, Eric Heckman, and no cost, no obligation, or you just want to get a copy of my book, Worry Less Wealth. If you want to get some of our quick reads, we've got these 10 to 15 page papers on Social Security decision. Will my money last as long as I do? Items like that. All you got to do is text the word toolbox to 800 800-454-1184. Again, text the word toolbox, 800-454-1184, or download it directly at wealthcreatorradio.com.
Yeah, and on wealthcreatorradio.com, they have like Eric already said, there's some free reports there. But you want some more advice? Eric's giving you advice today. There's a lot of articles on things that you might have questions about. What if you do need long-term care or those Social Security decisions or empower women investors? Just all kinds of things. Head to wealthcreatorradio.com for even more. Eric and his team are here to guide you about retirement. In fact, Eric's been doing this for 30 plus years. So that is his passion, to help retirees have a remarkable retirement. And you're listening to Wealth Creator Radio with Eric Heckman. Thank you so much. So Eric, here's our final quote, maybe from someone who's far less famous. This is a financial author, and his name is Jonathan Clements. He says, retirement is like a long vacation in Vegas. The goal is to enjoy it to the fullest, but not so fully that you run out of money. And tell us how true that is.
Yeah, well, no, definitely. I mean, it should be a lot like a vacation, but you don't want to be, I think it's almost more expensive going to Disney nowadays than it is Vegas. But, some of these places, when you're on these trips or these resort areas, right, everything's so pricey. You don't want to be spending that kind of stuff every day, for, the rest of your life, right? So you gotta have a little bit both ways, right? Have those fun trips, have those things, but have that in a fun fund. Have a fund set aside where you've got that money to do those things, and make sure you're doing the things that you want to do. Getting out there, having some fun, seeing friends, seeing family, going to all those bucket list places, but do it within a plan. So once year by year, my clients come back to us and they say, "Oh, how am I doing? Are we on track?" And I mean, one of the nicest ones I just recently had was I had a client that we went over, how she's been doing, and she's like, "Is this about right?" I mean, I looked back from some of our reports from, I think it was about 8 years or 9 years earlier, and she's averaged only about 10,000 drop in all those years of her assets.
Oh, wow.
Even though she's been living off of them and taking income and so forth out of that. So, I said, you're good. She's like, well, I'm always worried about that Costco shopping cart. Do I need to take it home with me or not? And like, nope, you're fine. So, again, that's why we put all these tools up and all these great resources up at our digital toolbox. There's a lot of great stuff in there. You can set a time to talk, get a copy of my book or some of those reports. All you have to do is text the word toolbox to 800-454-1184. Again, text the word toolbox, 800-454-1184, or download it directly at wealthcreatorradio.com.
Thinking about healthcare costs, long-term care expenses, and income needs in retirement? How will you afford it all? And what can you do now to help ensure your loved ones will be okay when you're gone? Eric Heckman at Heckman Financial has access to tools and strategies that can help you pursue your retirement dreams without taking on too much risk with your money. Interest rates are the highest they've been in decades, so take advantage of this seemingly once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to help protect your retirement before it's gone. Learn about the tools and features available today that could provide bonuses, potentially adding up to tens of thousands of dollars in additional income when medical needs arise. Schedule your visit with Eric Heckman at Heckman Financial today by calling 800-454-1184. That's 800-454-1184. These opportunities won't last forever, so call now to help protect your future. 800-454-1184.
Hi, I'm Lou Ann Fulmer here with Eric Heckman, and so happy to have you along with us today. Every week on our show, we talk about challenges and risks that happen in retirement. So it's time now for Eric to give us an example of someone who has experienced one of those obstacles in retirement. We call it a financial fail. Obviously, we want to learn from it and hopefully not do that. Eric, what do you have for us today?
Yeah, well, one of the things that kind of drives me nuts about my profession is most people, when you talk to a financial advisor, they'll say, we don't give tax advice. And then you go to your tax person and they say, well, we don't give financial advice. So it's like, okay, well, when are you two ever going to talk? Because somebody needs to help me.
Yeah.
I don't have a left side of the body and a right side of the body doctor. You need somebody who works on the whole thing, right?
Yes.
And so, what I've seen a lot of issues with is people just not knowing how much of a role the taxes play. In the movie, The Psychology of Retirement that we've been showing, they talk about the fact that the largest expense in retirement, bigger than anything else, even medical costs, is taxes. And why is that? Well, because most people put money in IRAs, 401ks, and they've never paid the tax bill. And so there's a lot of issues around that. I had one client who came to me when he was 70. This was a few years back. When the tax rates were not the tax rates, the required minimum distribution was at 70.5 then. Now it's 73. But every time he took more money out of his IRA, his Social Security got taxed more. And I've had other people where all of a sudden they've said, "Oh, I want to do this improvement on my house." We just had somebody doing that, and so they did all this stuff. And of course, like all home improvement projects, it goes over budget, right? It takes too long and costs twice as much. Again, they didn't come to us early enough in retirement or pre-retirement, I should say. So they just had all sorts of IRA and 401k dollars. Well, of course, as we take more and more of that out, they start going up the food chain, if you want to call it that or whatever, in the tax brackets, and then more of your funds get eaten up. And so I see this repeatedly happening where people don't have some tax-free money. I've had some people where we've got those Roth IRAs and we've got some tax-free money. They're able to go get those and not have to pay the tax. I had one client that needed a new truck. He likes to do a lot of, projects and stuff around the house, and nothing fancy, but he had $20,000 in his Roth IRA. We were able to use that money tax-free.
Wow.
Had he needed to get that out of his, taxable IRA account, if it wasn't the Roth, he would have needed probably $28,000 to get that same $20,000 net check. So, again, if you have got some tax-free money and some taxable money, then you can be playing around with what bracket you want to be year by year. Mm-hmm. But, a lot of people don't do that, and all they have is just taxable money coming in, and there is no way to plan for that. It's just you pay the tax, and so it's pretty painful.
Thank you for tuning in to Wealth Creator Radio. I'm Eric Heckman, and it's been a pleasure guiding you towards a more confident and secure retirement. Remember, my responsibility is to always do what's right for you, our client. Together, we can cut out that fancy-sounding financial jargon that doesn't help and focus on what truly matters for your financial future. If you're ready to take control of your retirement planning and build a personalized income plan, contact us at 800-454-1184 and text the word Toolbox to schedule a complimentary consultation. If you're looking for more resources and tools to build your retirement future, don't forget to check out that Wealth Creator Toolbox, your toolkit for a secure and confident retirement journey. Until next time, retire more and worry less with Wealth Creator Radio.
Information provided during Wealth Creator Radio is for illustrative purposes only and does not constitute investment, tax, or legal advice. Information has been obtained from sources that are deemed to be reliable, but their accuracy and completeness cannot be guaranteed. Always consult with a qualified investment, legal, or tax professional before taking any action. Annuity guarantees are based solely on the financial strength and claims-paying ability of the issuing company. Individuals should thoroughly review the contract for specific details of the product features and costs. Income payments and withdrawals from deferred annuities are generally taxable as ordinary income in the year they are taken. Eric Heckman offers investment advisory services through Heckman Financial and Insurance Services, Inc., a registered investment advisor. Any tax advice given as part of this presentation is not intended to be used and cannot be used by the taxpayer for the purpose of avoiding tax penalties or promoting, marketing, or recommending to another party any matter or transaction addressed herein. The views and opinions expressed in the program are not necessarily those of the radio station or its sponsors, and they should not construe as legal, tax, or investment advice. You should always consult the appropriate advisor before making any financial decision.